Welcome, my name is Tishar and this is StarMade. And you guys might remember this fleet I have on screen here. This was the first fleet I submitted for the fleet competition a very long time ago now, I believe. And this was around the time as well that I started posting StarMade videos on my channel as well. So it brings me right back to the beginning. And the reason I have this fleet here today, because it has been such a long time since I built this fleet. It's been not kind to didn't age well, in my opinion. I had some good ideas, I think, when I started building this fleet, but it doesn't really fit with my build style anymore and what I wanted to convey with this fleet. It isn't really saying this is a fleet built by me, basically. So I had this idea to rebuild this fleet for a while, but I hold off because of all the changes that were in the pipeline for systems, etc. But yeah, I do want to start on it, at least on shells. And I did start on this already a while back with a first attempt on that. So for example, the second biggest ship here I rebuilt already a while back. And I have to admit, this already looks better than the original fleet ship is, but it still isn't where I want to go with this fleet. And personally, I'm probably not happy if this is going to be in the game. So I want to try to basically start from scratch. Because at the time that we had the fleet competition, it wasn't really clear what a fleet should consist of. I mean, everybody just put something together and size didn't matter, class of ships didn't matter. I don't think we even had the fleets for the trade guild in the game yet at the time. I'm not sure. It was such a long time ago, but I don't think we did at the time. So my idea is to just grab the fleet that we have now for the trade guild and use that as a guide for the type of ships that we need in our own fleet. And I think I will start with the biggest ship that we have in the trade guild fleet, and that's the frigate. And here we have a copy of the trade guild frigate. It's around the 150 meters lengthwise mark, I believe, and it has a reasonable amount of volume inside for systems and interior. There is a bit of interior in here, mainly a long hallway that connects to a couple of spaces like here for, I believe this is a bedroom, yeah, bedroom, things like that, and an engineering core room in the middle over here with all kinds of systems that are no longer available anymore. So even this official build is no longer up to date. But like I said, I just want to concentrate on building a shell first and do some of the interior, or perhaps all the interior, then figure out the system later on once that's at least settled in a sort of stable configuration. Because at the moment I just don't know what will happen with those. So yeah, I think I'll start with a design that is basically something I did before and is very me now, I believe. Is designing a cockpit at the back of the ship, at least more or less at the back. I did something similar with the Radiant Dawn, Rising Tide, ships like that. So basically have the reverse of the Trading Guild. Of course, the Trading Guild has the cockpit at the front. I will have it at the back and at the top of the ship. And then go from there, do a more wider design than this ship has, but keep it in the length of, in the ballpark of 150 meters. That's my initial thought, at least. Because we know from the streams that Saber did that all the ships that are in the Trade Guild fleet right now are classified as tier 1 ships. So I want to have at least a fleet complete with tier 1 ships in it. So a frigate like this. Then we probably need a bomber, a fighter, some sort of ship to harvest asteroids, trading, or at least cargo ship. And I believe that's about it. And a shuttle, I think. So yeah, that should be a lineup for a small fleet. And that should at least be able to be implemented. So let's start building with my new ship. And let's see how it goes. This is my very rough initial setup. Just a line of blocks that indicate the total length of the ship, what it's going to be, like I said, 150 meters approximately, and where the cockpit is approximately going to be. I'm going to build up this cockpit a bit further and then attach the engines to the back, because then I know how much space I need at the back, and then probably need to trim some at the front or perhaps add to it depending on how much space I use in the back. For this initial cockpit setup, I did something similar as I did with the 809 rebuild. I did, I believe it was 2 episodes back. So a captain chair in the middle and then 2 chairs to the left and the right of this, so for navigation and for system maintenance. So I'm probably going to borrow a couple of things I did with the 809 as well, because that has a very compact interior. Because that's another thing I want to try here, keep the interior a bit more compact than I normally do. So the deck height will probably be 3 blocks overall instead of the normal 5 I usually use, because I want these ships to be a bit more skinny in volume than I normally tend to do the ships. So I padded out the cockpit interior a bit more. It's now more or less complete. It's one of these nice blue lights in the ceiling that I did for the 809 as well. Some computers at the back, the door towards the entrance of the bridge, and then a door lock, same again as I did with the 809. And when it opens like this in 2 parts. Then it doesn't open all the way, so you have half a block to the side left over, just to add a bit of detail. I quite like this. This is probably going to be one of the only doors that is a rail door in the ship, because I want to keep the docked entities light in my ship designs for the fleet, because that could cause problems if there are too many entities in one area, I think, if multiple ships load. So I want to keep that down a bit. As you can see here, I already added a lot of armor plating and padded out the main hull around the cockpit a bit more. The idea is to keep the green color, but mix in a lot more gray tones, because the original design of the ships were basically all green, a bit too much green. So I want to break that up a bit more. Also what I did is do a basic outline of the shape of the ship that it's going to take. So something like this. So it will taper off a bit all the way to the front. And then in the back I want to have a couple of engine pods like this. It's probably going to be similar or perhaps even the same as the original engine designs I did for the original fleet ships, because those were the main focal point of my original ship designs. Having these engine pod modules already pre-built and then build a ship around it. But I'm not going to do that for this ship. I'm going to probably use the engines at the back, but not the pods inside the ship itself that was in the original design. I'll leave that open. Also have space on the side over here for 2 turrets. That's something similar as the original Trade Guild frigate. It also has 2 turrets on the sides, but mine will be different, of course, in design and probably in system layout. But yeah, like I said, I want to keep it similar enough to the Trade Guild frigate that it will be balanced enough to either fight each other or fight next to each other. I loaded up another copy of the initial attempt for rebuilding this fleet because of this engine block at the back. Like I said, I'm probably going to use this, and I did. Because one of the main defining features of this fleet design was always these engine pods and then this green armor plating half surrounding it and then pulling back in the main body of the ship. And I want to keep that design because that's one of the defining features, and I want to rebuild the fleet but also make it recognizable that it is part of this fleet, if I explain it correctly. But yeah, if you go to this ship now, you can see that I at least have the armor plating at the back with the white stripes, etc. But I placed the engine pods. This is a 1:1 copy of the one over there, a bit more inside the protection of the armor plating, so it isn't as exposed as the original one is. And then in the middle over here, I want a bigger engine that is a bit farther back than the 2 on the sides over here, so that will complete my engine layout for this ship. And there we go, 1 big engine pod added. So now I've got 3 engines, 1 in the main in the middle and 2 to the sides. I'm probably going to play a bit with the detailing of this thing a bit more, but overall it's there now. And I also added the turrets that I had on the original rebuild here to the sides, but colored a bit differently. But yeah, I think they fit quite nicely in this design, so I'll probably keep them like that. Perhaps make the barrels a bit longer, but perhaps not. I'm not sure yet. Depends a bit on how the systems turn out. And the next thing I need to do is build up the armor plating from the cockpit all the way to the front, because now I know how long the ship is going to be at the back end. So now I know how much space I have left over at the front. So yeah, this is probably going to be the final length of the ship. I'm slowly building up additional details, more armor panels, and then over here we've got an airlock on both sides, actually, over here as well. Then I decided to add this brown pipe at the top of it, make it look like this airlock pod is going to be sucked with air via this brown hose, or pumped in. It could be as well. It's just an extra details, a bit of extra color that will add to the overall design of the ship, I think. Not sure where it's going at the moment, but we'll figure that out once we have more of the detailing going up front. Also completed the back a bit more with the armor plating on top of the engines, so that's nice and enclosed as well. Then at the bottom I decided to add these sticky out bits to break up the pods a bit as well when you look at it from the underside of the ship. And also started figuring out what I need to do with the underside. And this gray line over here will probably form the shape of the underbelly of the ship itself, so that will taper off at the front again. But probably not at this height, because it probably needs to be a bit higher. Not sure yet. And these light gray lines in the middle, as I normally do, are the deck heights. I decided to go, like I said, with 3 high deck heights and then a floor and no space in between, just to keep everything nice and compact. And I already started a bit of layout design here. to figure things out, because this is the door to the bridge, of course. Then we have a hallway in the middle over here, and then probably on this end of the hallway I'm going to place the elevator. This will give me space over here for a conference room or meeting room or whatever. And then once you take the elevator down, I can add a whole bunch of space here in the middle and not have the elevator in the way, because it's to the side. And even more armor paneling. I decided to add the gray base layer first, because that will dictate the general shape of the ship. So each segment is one less wide than the next one, so that will add this tapering effect to the front. And then I have to break it up with this green armor paneling and then add details, things like that. And I decided to add one more feature to this ship that the Trade Guild frigate doesn't have: a small docking bay. It's very, very small, but I managed to add a door on both sides actually. Got a button over here that opens the door in two parts. And then we've got a very small docking bay. It's 5 blocks high, so you can't park a whole lot of ship in here, but very small ships can be parked in here. So mainly personal, well, yeah, a core with an engine and perhaps some hull plating to get down to a planet, but that's about it, I think. And then you've got the stairs up here that will get you to the floor level. So these two gray blocks are the floor spaces, of course. Then we've got this window over here that you can use to overlook into the docking bay. So this also dictates the ends of my interior. So everything after the docking bay will probably be taken up by systems and things like that, because I'm not going to use that for interior. I think this state of the ship really shows what a bit of detailing can do. You can really see the difference between the back of the ship, where I did all the detailing, then slowly to the front you see only the gray base layer and then the green armor panels that don't have any detailing yet. It really makes a difference. And this is also the point I have to really think about what I'm going to do with the underside of the ship. I already showed you the outline of the underbelly of the ship, how it's going to be probably. But I still have to reconnect everything to the main body, and that's usually a bit of a challenge. But I think the best way to do it is just to start on one end, back or front, one of the two, and then work my way around to the front or the back. And then see where everything meets up. Also decided to do something with the front, with some antennas on one side and then some other details on the other side. So a little bit of asymmetrical detailing that I want to add. Not a lot, but just enough to keep things interesting. And of course the rest of the detailing of the armor plating that I already have. I was struggling a bit with the underside of the ship, so I decided to just, like I did with the main body, add the gray base layer first in the shape I want for the overall outline of the ship, and then figure out the detailing and the green armor panels that need to go on top later, because that will keep your build consistent in overall shape. So yeah, the overall shape of the ship is forming up quite nicely. It's really what I had in mind when I started initial building this ship, I think. And I don't think it's all that much heavier, I think, than the original Trade Guild ship. Probably have to pull up a copy of that once this is a bit more done, and then compare it a bit more. But I think they're in roughly the same ballpark. The only thing I have an advantage of, I think, is that I have a lot more interior room than the original straight gilt ship, because that had a very long, narrow section at the front with not a lot of space in it. So now I added the green armor panels to the bottom of the ship, and cut out some of the parts to show the gray hull underneath it. This just needs a detail pass, and then it's the same for the last part up top as well for the front. I also worked out the front a bit more, so it's now nice and tidy now, with the detailing and the antennas at the right side of the ship. So this is almost a complete hull. Like I said, just a detail pass to go, and then I think I'm pretty much done. And then I can move on to the interior of the ship. One detail pass later, and I think we've got a job well done. Added some additional asymmetrical detail with the brown piping over here. Added some additional armor details. Experiment a bit with some thruster modules here and there to make it look like it can maneuver in space. And then at the bottom I did something similar with a couple of details, some darker gray colors here and there, and I've got this one docking rail at the bottom. That's something I usually do with ships that have sufficient size. So this docking rail can support a smaller ship to be docked there that is not small enough to fit into the docking bay, so you can take it with you, or perhaps some cargo or whatever. I'm quite happy with how this turned out. I also did a bit of detailing for the interior. So for example over here I did some additional detailing in the hangar bay, so it's a bit more lively. And in the connecting hallway of the bridge, I have a hallway now, a small one, just to figure out how a hallway needs to look in this ship. I've got a transporter now, and then over here, like I said, it's going to be a conference room. And I've got an elevator over here that already works, because that is, of course, my main connection to all the other floors in the ship. So 3 floors, one over here and then one below here. Just barely fits, but it does fit. So yeah, now I can concentrate on the rest of the interior. But I think I'll leave that for a later episode, because I'm running out of time for this episode already. But I'm quite happy with the result of the initial hull design I've got here. I'm probably going to fiddle a bit with some additional details if needed, but overall I'm quite happy how this ship turned out. And I'm going to use this as a base for all the other ships that's going to be in the tier 1 category for this fleet. So they're going to be smaller than this one, so that will probably be a faster build. But this ship gives me all the details that I need for the smaller builds. So that's a good way to do it, I think. Hope you enjoyed this build. I'm probably going to be working on the Galactic Trade Guild vessel next episode, and then switch it up with this fleet thing I've got going here, I think. So probably fleet ship episode, then Trade Guild, big ship, and then etc. etc. If you have any comments or other questions, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.